little monkey was walking through the forest when he came upon a puzzle box with something rattling inside. He spent much of the morning trying to figure out how to open it, sliding the panels and trying to play with the latches until he finally figured out how to open it. He carefully poured out the contents and 2 beautiful, shiny apples rolled out. Oh, he was in bliss. But he tried to take a bite out of one, and it was hard and disgusting, and so he tried the other one, and it was the same, and they were made of wood. So he couldn't eat them. But he kept them anyway, because he worked so hard to get them, and they were just way too beautiful to get rid of. So, resuming his walk through the forest, he carried a wooden apple in each hand. Sometimes he'd stop to play with them or just admire their beauty. God, they were gorgeous. And every once in a while, he'd take a bite out of one. And this was always met with disappointment. Just, he'd forget, take a bite, and but he wouldn't let him go. And then later on, he came upon a real apple lying in the path. Wow, the smell aroused his hunger. But he couldn't pick it up because he had these apples in his hand. Oh, he could smell its sweetness, and it just so aroused his hunger. But his hands were full of the wooden apples, which he refused to drop. So, he continued on his way. Now, how many of us are holding on to, and even worse, trying to eat our wooden apples? How many jobs, relationships, situations, possessions, ideas have we refused to let go of because we were scared of who we'd be without them, or what we would lose if we got rid of them? On the other hand, how many amazing new experiences are we not taking part in because we're still holding on to those apples and we're afraid what we're going to lose? So, here we go. In November of 2011, I had the opportunity to begin the process of letting go of my life as I knew it. My job, my home, my purpose in life, my identity, out the window. And believe me, I did not do it gracefully. I went kicking and screaming. Well, I don't think there was kicking, but there might have been some screaming, or a lot of 4-letter words. So the moment I found out I was pregnant at age 44 was the most shocking moment of my entire life. Fortunately, my partner, Mike, he's back there with our little bundle of joy. He doesn't like to be left in there. Fortunately, he's pretty adept when faced with, hysterical females. So he pretty much held it together. But it only took a little while. I got in the shower and started thinking, this might be a good thing. And then he came over and we talked, and he was thinking the same thing. But unfortunately for me, that thought would come and go, and mostly go, during the next several months. So our original plan was he had a teenage daughter, and we would get married in a couple years when she went off to college. So this time we decided we'd get married, move in together, I would quit work, and I would stay home and be with our little bundle of joy. Talk about culture shock. I've been working since I was 12. Not legally, but I've been working since I was 12. So I've been married before, but was divorced over 10 years, doing my own thing, living on my own. Now, there was a part of me that wanted to be married to Mike, or really there was a part of me that wanted him to want to be married to me. But a bigger part of me was content with just leaving things the way that they were. It was safe that way. God, was it safe? So I started to panic. Although there were parts of my life that were really far from perfect. I loved my life, I loved my home, and I was going to have to give it all up. Actually, I didn't have to, but I chose to. I was going to give up my home, my pool, my peaceful place, my privacy, my independence. I was going to give all that up. What was I going to do if I couldn't go home to my little peaceful place? How the hell was I going to live with a husband, a teenage daughter, and a baby? Well, I was going to find out. So one of the main tenets of Buddhism, this is my favorite part of Buddhism, because I've spent a lot of time with it, says that the main cause of our suffering is that we become attached to things that we view as pleasant, and we develop aversions to things that we think are not pleasant. But for many months, I just put that on the back burner. I wasn't looking at that. Shoot, it wasn't even on the stove. It was like in the pantry somewhere. Let's just say I was getting some good practice in the suffering department. And then I started to realize that this baby was going to get me out of a pretty dysfunctional work environment. So here's some truth for you. But I was great at my job. I loved the responsibility. But I was miserable a lot of the time. I was a walking jar of negativity. You? Yes, me, really. And listening to my inner dialogue all day was not fun. And I wondered if the baby was going to survive, because you kind of do that in your 40s when you have a surprise like that. So I started to worry that if she didn't, I'd be stuck at this job forever. Welcome to my head. You know? Asking, can Julie talk again? Oh, I don't know. But I think being stuck at that job scared me more than, the unknown, which would be facing my new identity and my day-to-day existence that I had no idea was going to be like. I'm telling you, I had no idea. Women tell you, but you have no idea. But, so anyway, due to several weeks of pretty intense all-day sickness, I didn't do the morning, I did all day. I didn't throw up, but I was sick all day. And then the reflex kicked in at night. So due to that, and my refusal to torture myself even further by trying to get organized, we got married, moved in, rented my house, quit my job, I had a baby in 4 short months. Now I'm one for efficiency, but this took the cake. I don't ever want to be that efficient again. And unfortunately, life with the little bundle of joy was not joyful for me. She was fussy, she slept in really short spurts, had problems nursing, and spent many nights wanting to be pressed up against me. Try to sleep upright with a baby on your chest. I'm sure many of you have. So I was cranky, sleep deprived, newly married and cohabiting, figuring out my role as a partner, haven't done that in a while, trying to nurse a baby and be the best mom I can be, and trying really, really hard not to resent this new little person. And to top it off, I had no job. I had nothing to gauge my effectiveness by. Talk about developing aversions. I wanted off of this ride. This was not what I signed up for. Actually, it was, but I didn't think it was. So then, it gets worse. A few months later, I started feeling physically worse. I started having heart palpitations, weakness. I felt like I was going to drop and not be able to get back up off the floor. My heart would race. I had shortness of breath. And I even passed out right in the middle of the night one time nursing Michaela. That was fun. So as it worsened and I sought medical help, I panicked again. This time, worrying about Michaela, my daughter, who I liked now most of the time. I worried about her being raised without her mother. I mean, oh my God, what if I died? So here I was, I went through a primary care physician who said, you have anxiety. And I was like, duh, no. And then, so we go to the cardiologist and we run all these tests and you have fatigue. Well, yeah. But I knew there was something else going on, so I just prayed for answers. In the meantime, I saw so many moms, pictures of moms online on Facebook, and they're going out and about, and they're all smiling, taking their babies places. And I wondered, how in the hell was I going to be a good mother to Michaela? I don't know. I was feeling horrible. She hated her car seat. And to top it all off, I had wrist and back problems. So when I did feel up to getting out for short periods of time, lugging her around was not fun. Some days all I could do was lie on the floor and just watch her crawl around. I was just so weak. I was scared if I stood up. It was hard. And then I wondered how many other wives, moms, are doing what their partners expected of them, being organized, running errands, cleaning the house. I couldn't even get a shower. So now, you get it. Now, not was I only a worthless mother, but I was a worthless wife, an incompetent wife to boot. Did you guys know I was going through any of this? Probably not, because I was home suffering. Anyway, so in her book, Loving What Is, Byron Katie talks about how we argue with reality. How things should be different than the way they are. Man, I was arguing. I was fighting. And that it's not the situation, but it's our thoughts about the situation that causes our suffering. In her teachings, what she refers to as the work, she offers some practices to address how we deal with reality. Her work gets us to explore our thoughts and helps us to let go of what's not serving us. So if we are to be peaceful, we need to look at the thoughts behind the suffering. So here's some of mine. I'm not pulling my weight around here, which meant I had very little to no value. That was hard. I'm a terrible mother. Poor Michaela. And oh my God, what if she loses me? How horrible that will be. So here's my head. Welcome to my head. But so often these thoughts are so automatic, they're so ingrained in our psyches that we don't even realize what the thoughts are. So sometimes we have to go a little deeper and see what's really going on. So here comes the fun part. And so I'll preface this by saying in 12-step programs, they have take what you want and leave the rest. Take what you want and leave the rest. Anyway, see if any of these statements ring true. I came up with several of them that probably most of us have said at some point in time. The first one, I'm not, fill in the blank, tall, thin, smart, young, peaceful, talented, enough. I'm not enough. Or I'm too fat, short, sensitive, poor, fill in the blank. How about no one really likes me? How about this one? I will never have enough time, money, love, fill in the blank. I don't give enough. Okay, how about this one? I think we've all done this one. I would bet money that we've all done this one at some point. I'll be happy when, fill in the blank. So now we hold our happiness hostage for something that may or may not ever happen. And here's the doozy. We've done this at some point too. If so-and-so would only change, then my life would get better. Yeah. It's nice to know we're all human. Byron Katie also asks us to become aware of our stories, or the thoughts or series of thoughts that we think are real. She says we all walk around with untested, uninvestigated stories about what we think is going on, and we don't even realize that all they are is theories. So we're just making stuff up and then walking around as if it's the truth. That sounds so crazy. Anyway, but I also think it's interesting how we can look at other people and we can see that maybe their stories aren't true, but we think ours are true. Where does that come from? Anyway, she encourages us to notice when our thoughts conflict with reality, or what is, and to meet these thoughts with understanding. I've been realizing more and more that condemning ourselves for our experience of life is not only unnecessary, but totally counterproductive. Totally. Waste of time, waste of energy. Wish I would have thought of that years ago. So I started thinking, if we were to teach a small child how to do something, would we criticize her for doing it wrong? No. We would acknowledge that she's learning, and we would encourage her until she got it. Then we'd celebrate it. We wouldn't focus on how long it took for her to get there, or how much effort it took. So what if we treated ourselves that way? Maybe we get to connect with and heal some of our inner children. Maybe we'd be better learners if we give ourselves a break. Just made the process a little easier rather than making ourselves suffer even more. So I'm going to invite you to do a little exercise if you wish. Take a minute and think of something in your life that is causing you some discomfort. It could be some big major thing, or it could just be something that pissed you off, whatever. Be as shallow or as deep as you wish with this. Something minor, something that's a big deal. Whatever you choose to look at. Ask yourself what needs to be different in order for me to be peaceful or happy. Just one thought. Okay, if you wish, close your eyes. It's just easier to visualize when you close your eyes. I promise I'm not going to do anything to you. Take some deep breaths, big long exhales, and just relax. Let's see if we can meet this thought with some empathy. Let's just try this. No judgment whatsoever. Now, hold that thought in your head, in your mind, and now see that thought as that small child, however they may look. That thought's just a kid, 2, 3, 4, whatever age, whatever size, whatever color of hair works for you. Give him a name or her a name, whatever works. And just breathe and see that kid. Can you see this child is innocent, or this thought is innocent, and maybe just needing some love and understanding? If you can see this, are you feeling a little more compassionate towards that thought? And if you can feel a little more compassionate towards that thought, can you feel a little more compassionate towards yourself? So we're only doing this briefly, but this is something you can take with you, and if it helps you meet your thoughts with empathy, you can do this anytime. And open your eyes if you wish. So if we can start treating our thoughts with empathy, we can start treating ourselves with empathy. It just kind of goes hand in hand. So, another principle of Byron Katie's teachings, this one's going to be really fun, is that we stay in our own business. This is much harder than you would think. Yeah. She states we only have 3 kinds of business: mine, yours, and God's. So she uses the term God to mean reality, and says that reality is God because it rules. So use whatever you want. The universe, all it is, whatever works for you. She says that anything that is out of our control and out of anybody else's control is God's. And that much of our stress becomes from, get this, mentally living out of our own business. So when we think you should, he should, she should, they should, we're living in someone else's business. And when we worry about, she says earthquakes, but we're in Florida. I'll say hurricanes. When we worry about hurricanes, floods, wars, or when we will die, we're in God's business. So if you're living your life, and if I am mentally living your life, who's here living mine? Certainly not me. Being mentally in your business keeps me from being present in my own, which is sometimes, what I want to be doing. But how can I do my own work when I'm busy doing yours? And how can I really know what's best for you if I'm not really even sure what's best for me? It's hard sometimes, though, when we love people, and we want to let go and let them live their lives, but gosh, they're just not doing what they should do. But I'm a slow learner, learning that the best thing I can do for all of us is to work on my stuff, rather than trying to fix something or someone. Now listen to this part, because I think it's really important. This is my old Course in Miracles stuff coming back. I love this statement. If I am mentally in your business or God's business, the effect of this is separation. If I'm mentally in your business or God's business, the effect of this is separation. So then come the feelings of anger, resentment, hurt, and loneliness. And what does that do to us when we're in someone else's business and we feel that way? It makes us feel separate from all that is. Never heard it put that way before. Byron Katie says the next time you feel stress or discomfort, just ask yourself whose business that you're in. She says you may burst out laughing. I don't know, but. And she says if you practice it a while, you may come to see that you don't have any business either, and that your life runs just fine on its own. Okay, I'll take that. The last part of her work we'll discuss today is conducting an inquiry of our thoughts. This is the heart of her practice. She has 4 questions to ask ourselves about our thoughts, or thought. Number 1, is it true? Yeah, it's true because I think it. Well, when we sit with that, sometimes we can bring up a little doubt. And if number 1 doesn't work, we go to number 2. Can you absolutely know that it's true? Absolutely 100% no doubt on that one. Sit with that one a while. Because we don't know. If it has to do with somebody else, we don't know what their motivations are. There are so many variables we don't know. We live in our body, and we're not even aware of 100% of what goes on in here. So, yeah, we might realize we're making assumptions. Number 3, how do I react when I think that thought? What happens up here? What happens in my body? Just to notice that. And number 4, who would I be without it? Who would I be without that thought? Just to take time with this. Notice what you see and feel. Then she has us turn it around. We explore the opposite thought. We mix it up, switch words around, and see if there's another statement that's maybe truer than the original. So an example might be that if I thought somebody else should be kind to me, maybe I should be kind to me. So she has us mix it up. I'll give you some resources. You can find her, and if you want to explore this a little more. So there are several statements that can come out of the original one, and it just opens up a whole new way of looking at our thoughts. So basically we take it apart, explore it, and see what it's really about. And when we do this with our troubling thoughts, we'll eventually come to a place where they don't have so much of a charge. And not only do they not have so much of a charge, but we can diffuse them more quickly and easily. These are great tools. So this will change your life in a matter of minutes. Byron Katie's work, I'm telling you. You can check it out at www.thework.com. There are videos of her, you can get her books. Those 4 questions, minutes, will change your life in minutes. So, back to me. As I struggled with my situation and watched Michaela crawl around the floor while I lay there, I began to notice how curious she was. And I noticed how good she was exploring and figuring things out for herself. And I marveled at her abilities. What an amazing little person. And then I started thinking, maybe if I had more energy, I'd be stepping in more and she wouldn't do all this exploring on her own. So maybe, just maybe the thoughts, poor Michaela and I'm a terrible mother, maybe they were just thoughts. Maybe they weren't true. And then Mike and I began to talk about expectations. He didn't care how clean the house was or what I did during the day. And shoot, I didn't even have to cook dinner if I didn't want to. He made the statement that I was raising our daughter and that that's what matters now. And part of me realized that. It just took a while for the rest of me to get it and to value myself as an equal partner and realize I'm not worthless at all. And I attended a support group where I met other moms who had been through some pretty incredible challenges. So I got a lot of help and compassion and started to feel that I wasn't so alone. Then some of us started meeting outside the group and started attending a class once a week with our kids. And this brought a whole new issue up for me because now I was the old mom. I was the one that just didn't fit in. I'm hanging out with 20 and 30-year-old new moms, and what the heck would they want with me? All the other old moms went back to work, so I had no one in my age group to bond with. So, in the little book of letting go, Hugh Prather gives us some steps for letting go of what we're attached to. He says to remove what obstructs our experience of peace and wholeness, we must first look at the obstruction, which is the situation and obstructing thoughts, which we've done. Now, secondly, and here's the take what you want and leave the rest part. To go beyond this obstruction, we must be certain that we really want to. Of course we do. But we need to ask ourselves some specific questions. So I made up a few that I thought would be interesting and true. First question, do I really want peace? Or am I comfortable in the drama? As much as we don't like it, Sometimes we can't not be in the drama. We don't know how not to be in the drama. That's what we do. Next question is, am I attached to a particular role or roles? Sometimes we're so attached to what we're doing and how other people see us. I don't know if I really want peace that much. You know, I've spent many years playing a really great martyr, and I can jump into it real quick if I want to. What would happen if I did things differently? How would the rest of the world react? Oh my God. What would others think of me? How would I judge myself if I changed? Is there too big of a payoff for staying right where I am? Who would I be if I changed? Let me tell you, when your identity goes out the window, yeah, life gets a little challenging. So this part of the question takes brutal honesty. Because no matter how much we say we want to have peaceful lives, we'll create what we've been creating. And we can't help it. It's habit. No matter what the circumstances are, we're just going to do what we've done. Now, I want to be crystal clear. This is not about self-judgment or judging anyone else. God knows we've done enough of that. But sometimes when we look at what we've been doing, what we are doing, and realize that it just may not jive with what we want, that can be pretty helpful. We can observe, get out of ourselves a little bit and observe. Don't kick ourselves in the butt, just look at it. And then you can make a decision. Is it worth changing? Is it worth moving towards peace? I can stay here if I want. My choice. So the third part, Hugh Prather says, to experience our wholeness, each of us must respond from our whole mind and not our conflicted mind. We can experience our wholeness in so many ways. We know how to do it. There's prayer, there's meditation, although I have a little issue with too much prayer and not enough meditation. Sometimes you have to shut up and listen. We can connect with nature. We can do workshops, we can do healing work, or just doing what we love. Tap into that energy. We need to find out what works for us, each individual, what works for me. But we need to spend the time practicing getting in our whole mind so that we can recognize it and tap into it more easily. One simple practice we do here sometimes that I love is to focus on our heart space. When we're in our heart space, we know what's going to bring us peace. It just works that way. It's a place where we can be centered, we can be calm, we can listen to that still small voice in here that we all have. And when we know who we are, and we're connected to that divinity within us, then we can act from that place, rather than acting from here. So, one more little exercise I'd like to do real quick. Let's connect with our heart space. If you wish, close your eyes and just put your hand on your heart. And take some deep breaths and relax. And go back to that thought that you had earlier. Now, if you're totally at peace with that thought, maybe find another one. And just breathe into your heart space. And take that thought and let it just land there. Let it land right in your heart space and just breathe into it. Big long exhales and just relax. And take a moment and see if you feel differently at all. Notice if you're more at peace with that thought, or if some sort of resolution has started to come into your awareness, or even the possibility that there might be some sort of solution. No expectations, though. If you don't get peaceful with it, that's okay. Just stay in that heart space for a few more seconds. So we're doing this briefly, but again, this is another tool. You can do it all day long if you need to come into a more peaceful place. and open your eyes if you wish. So we can connect with our whole mind rather than relying on our conflicted one for answers. The answers that don't serve us well. We can listen to this wisdom within, rather than the fear swirling around in our heads that leads us away from peace. Don't be afraid to experiment. This is your life. Do what you want, have some fun. If you don't have something that works for you, look around. Something might interest you, spark your interest, and check it out. Spend some time with it though, and be patient with yourself. I run into so many people who say, I can't meditate, I can't do this, because I tried it once. Yeah. So just, hang with it a while. Now, as I continue to release my attachments to how I think my life should be, I'm able to focus more on the present. I realize my time that I have with my daughter is not going to last forever, and I've started to appreciate this part of my life. I've gotten more comfortable in my roles as wife and mother. We're going to say partner. I hate that word, wife. Partner and mother. Some people hate the word church. I hate the word wife. So, partner and mother. And I'm learning to have more fun with my husband and daughter. During my search for physical healing, I saw an alternative practitioner who figured out what my body needed and put me on some supplements. So it's been a process, but I am feeling so much better. And when I do have days that aren't so good, I know it's not permanent. I can roll with it. Now, the thought of being at a horrible thing if Michaela were to lose me, I'm going to be honest. I know Mike is an incredible dad. He's in there with her now. He would do an incredible job raising her on his own. But I can honestly say I haven't gotten rid of that thought. So maybe I'll work on that one a little bit. Pull out my Byron Katie book and do some questions. Now, me and the other moms, as I began to let go what I thought everybody was thinking of me and looked at what I was thinking of me, it became a lot easier to see who I am and who we all are. And me and the other moms, we were brought into each other's lives for a reason, to support each other and grow together, and that's exactly what the group has become, which is really cool. When I started writing about this topic, it was Sue Speaking from the Heart class, the thought of unattachment came to me, but it seems so static and so, fixed, such a fixed state, which I don't believe we can stay in for very long, unless you're a monk living on the side of a mountain somewhere. But I think we go through a constant process, all day, every day, just clinging to what we want to keep in our lives and letting go and allowing life to happen. Sometimes this is kicking and screaming. Sometimes it's almost effortless, but we do it all the time. That's what we do. The important thing is not to condemn ourselves. The important thing is for me not to condemn myself for becoming attached, but to just be willing to look at the attachments and maybe entertain the idea of letting them go. Letting go what's not serving me, and to even loosen my grip on the good things in my life. Now, that said, I'm getting pretty attached to the way my life is now, but I'm not that naive. I have a toddler at home, and I know change is inevitable, like every day, but that having a learning, growing, evolving kid is going to provide me with a lot of opportunities to practice letting go. And I know that as I continue to grow, I'll keep on working with unreleasing what doesn't serve me. I had to even do a little processing about coming here and speaking today. No, really? Yes. That maybe my thoughts and feelings and all this mommy stuff and, not wanting it, maybe it's not what society wants to hear, but they're my feelings and they're valid. It's when I can acknowledge them, accept them, and examine them that I can let them move through me and eventually let them go. So this morning in the shower, I'll just share with you real quick, because I was woke up at 4:30, couldn't go back to sleep, and so I'm in the shower and I'm thinking of all you guys. And I'm like, but everybody's so loving and kind, and even if I suck, they're just going to be so loving and kind. And I thought, gosh, what if there are a few really critical ones out there? And I started thinking, you mean critical like I am sometimes when I hear speakers that I don't like? Ouch! So I don't want you guys to be like me. And then I was driving here, And Sue had texted me, and I got a message from Mark, and I think Dee might have even said this, just be Julie. Just be Julie, I can do that. But what if just being Julie is not good enough? Ew! But so I'm driving along the road, and about a couple blocks from here, and if you had been driving next to me, you'd be, what is that girl laughing at? So I took them apart, I looked at them, I went, ew, and I went, okay. So anyway, but the great thing about practicing this stuff is that whatever we're working on gets easier, and we become more proficient. We can't help but become more proficient if we're practicing. So, remember the monkey story? When we last saw him, he had let go of the real apple and continued on his journey, carrying those fake ones. As his hunger grew, he thought about the real apple, and again, tried to bite one of the wooden ones. Oh, it tasted awful, but oh, it was so beautiful. He loved his apples. But he found himself walking back towards where he saw the real one. He couldn't find it though, and when he grew tired, he laid under a tree. Looking up, he saw fruit all around, hanging up above his head. It had been there like the whole time, but he had forgotten about it because he was so focused on his wooden apples. He was so hungry and he wanted to reach up and grab a piece of fruit to eat, but his hands were full. To reach the real fruit would mean dropping the wooden apples, and he was not about to do that. Then he tasted the wood one last time, and that was it. As he looked up again, he reached up for a piece of fruit and noticed the wooden apple slipping through his fingers. He brought the apple, the real apple, to his hungry mouth, and he was happy again. Thank you. Namaste. Is everybody coming close.